Anti-Israel agitators giving us a sneak peek of the chaos coming to the DNC. The Hamas-loving freaks crashing a New York Democrat rally for VP Harris, brawling with cops, lighting smoke bombs while storming an after-party in Harlem. They also infiltrated a Biden-Harris event yesterday and heckled Joe Biden when he was speaking. Watch this.
Our democracy is living here. The idea was that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal without and so on. It's going to, yes, including Palestinians.
Martha, this is like that itch that you just can't scratch. They can't get rid of it. You're going to be at the DNC. How do you think this will impact their convention?
You know, unless they can get inside and have credentials, you know, it's very tough to get in these. And at the Republican convention, they did the same thing in Milwaukee. They figured out a way to keep them at a huge distance, essentially, saying that it was going to create a safety hazard in the city, and they managed to keep them really far away. And I mean, that's the battle that's going on right now, because these protest groups are going before the city and saying that they are stepping on their First Amendment, that they have a right to be heard by the people coming and going from the convention. So that's a battle that the city has to sort of wage. Obviously, the people of Chicago have had successful conventions. They also have the memory of 1968 in their deep memory well as well. And my guess is that they're going to keep them at a distance. But what's going to be really interesting is if somebody gets inside. If they get inside the building and they start to cause havoc there, it could be an issue. But I think it's at the voting booth that it's really going to be something that they're going to have to contend with in a more meaningful way. Obviously, Kamala Harris has tried to walk this fence very carefully, and I don't know how successfully at this point.
Jessica, that's really the question. She talked about how they also showed up for Republicans. They are rebuking Biden-Harris, but are Biden and Harris rebuking them enough? Is there a place for these people at the DNC?
Yeah, half a mile away. That's where they've been relegated to. They've shown themselves to be unsafe. This doesn't qualify as peaceful protest, or at least what we've seen in the past. Some of the campus protests that they said were so peaceful, kids were beaten up. Jewish kids were prohibited from going into libraries, going into cafeterias, going to their dorm rooms.
Lawsuits now.
Yeah. These people, they say, we want to be heard. We've heard you. And the administration, with the rest of the free world, is working as hard as they can towards a ceasefire that also returns the hostages. None of this would have happened if they hadn't shown up and killed over 1,000 people and taken hundreds of people hostage. And now they're starting fights online with Black and Latino voters, demeaning what issues are the most important to them, saying to young Black women, oh, well, you know, this is more important than anyone's right to have reproductive health care. This is more important than climate change. This is more important than gun reform, just denigrating people. And people are on their last nerve. I was on the Jewish Women for Kamala call last night, and this was a major theme of it, that they feel as though the Democratic Party and the perception of it has been co-opted from such a small fringe minority that has nothing to do with how our leadership feels, how Jewish liberals feel about our country, and how they feel about Israel and Netanyahu.
But she doesn't shut them down.
She did. Remember they showed up when she was speaking?
She said, let me speak. I'm speaking.
She dignified them. She met
didn't
with
say
them.
we support Israel in this country.
She has been.
October 7th is, yeah.
Judge,
I'm just,
so
you know.
2 squad members have already been defeated. I don't know any others will. But, you know, is this a moment where Republicans take a step back and kind of let the left eat itself?
Yeah, let them go at it. But here's the problem. First of all, as it relates to Chicago, Chicago has the largest Palestinian population in the country. Most of us think it's in Michigan or Minnesota. No, it's in Cook County. So right there, you've got 100,000 planned to come from 150 different organizations. My understanding is that permits have been granted, but that there are restrictions on the permits. And I think, you know, that's where the problem is going to come. Hopefully they are, as Jessica says, a half a mile away. But at the same time, you know, they have First Amendment right, but it's got to be balanced against safety and security for everybody else. But to me, the most curious part of this issue is, you know, how they see Kamala and Biden. On the one hand, they know that Joe Biden is the guy who, you know, freed up or opened up $80 million in oil sales so Iran can then fund Hamas and all these other organizations, and that Iran was broke under Trump. So on the one hand, I mean, if they've got any smarts, they know that they're on their side. But on the other hand, you know, they've got this other issue as to, you know, Joe Biden and Kamala, and this is where she's got to do that dance, separating herself from Biden, which I don't know how she's going to do. Joe Biden is sending armaments to Israel, but she said, if you want Donald Trump to win, you know, then keep talking, and she shut them up. So I'm not quite sure how they see her, and that's what's going to come out at this convention.
Greg, you know, the squad only existed. We know what the squad is because they became powerful enough, 5 or 6 members of Congress, and this is a group that they pandered to. So the idea that Democrats can just wash their hands of these people doesn't really carry water with me.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's that much daylight between these protesters and some of the people in the room. I mean, just ask Josh Shapiro. I mean, he's not in the room because of the squad, and the protesters were probably really happy that they ditched him because he was a Jew or is a Jew. You know, when you split people into groups, you end up ultimately pitting them against each other because you sacrifice the uniqueness of an individual. Here's a person named Steve, but then you turn him into Steve, a member of LGBTQ, and all of a sudden you have the demands of a group and a group that tells people that they are special as opposed to unique. So that's what, when you were talking about what's happening on these groups are turning on each other because that's the natural evolution of these things. If you tell a group that they're special, then they're going to be more special than the other group. Patriotism and religion, they said you were unique. They didn't say you were special, right? And that's what you're seeing right now. And I think, you know, it might be ugly there. It might be ugly there. I'm glad I'm not going. One benefit of being a Republican, those aren't your brats. You know, we crack the whips. You know, we know how to be an adult. It's like being at a restaurant and your kids are well behaved and you look over and you see their kids and they're screaming and yelling. You go like, my God, it's not the kids, it's the parents. Democrats got to discover their inner adult. Jessica.
Whip out those iPads. That's what I do.
Jessica, do you think it matters that her husband is Jewish?
Yeah, I think it does matter a lot. And
all right,
we do have to go.
We'll talk about this in a break.
Yeah, but that's interesting.
The fastest
that's an interesting
is up
piece.
next.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.